year is 1960, and a 26-year-old English woman with a secretarial degree has just embarked on a 6-month study of chimpanzees in a remote area of Gombe, Africa. What's up with that? Before we get started today, make sure to like and subscribe for more science videos, and as always, stay curious. At this point, most of us have heard the terrible news of scientist Jane Goodall's death on October 1st, 2025. At 91 years old, Jane Goodall lived a long and extremely impactful life.
Her unconventional ways of observing these chimps challenged the scientific community's belief on what it means to be human.
Born April 3rd, 1934 in Hampstead, London, England, Jane Goodall always loved animals. Although I grew up across the pond in Scarborough, Toronto, Canada, some 66 years later, a passion for animals at a young age is something we definitely have in common. Jane especially wondered about the plentiful species roaming the ecosystems in Africa. And when she was 26 years old, she had saved enough money from her waitressing job to visit Kenya, Africa.
I saved every penny I could to get me to Africa.
There she became employed by a paleontologist, Dr. Louis Leakey, as his secretary working out of the Museum of Nairobi, then the Corydon Museum. Leakey's work focused on researching early humans and unearthing fossil evidence of common ancestors. He hoped to provide evidence linking humans to the great apes.
He believed that an understanding of chimpanzees in the wild would help him to better guess how our Stone Age ancestors may have behaved.
Leakey soon heard of a tribe of chimpanzees living in Gombe, Nigeria, and he believed that studying their behavior could reveal similarities between humans and these monkeys, possibly providing evidence of their shared ancestry. Jane proved the perfect person for the job with her passion for animals and unique way of looking at the world, as a result of her lack of formal post-secondary education. Soon, Leakey secured funding for the study with the caveat that her mother accompany her.
It was my mother who volunteered.
In her newest book, The Book of Hope, a survival guide for trying times, Jane recalls how her self-confidence wavered during these first 6 months. She truly believed that she could gain the trust of these beautiful primates, but worried that the 6 months of funding that she had wasn't enough to accomplish her goals.
And at the back of my mind, there was always the fear, if I don't find out something exciting, the money will run out.
I particularly liked reading about Jane reminiscing on this period of her life, as we often do not hear about the vulnerability of young scientists.
My life fell into a rhythm. Day after day, in the sun and the wind and the rain, I climbed into the hills and stayed with the chimps from dawn until darkness fell.
As a student working in carrot farms across Quebec and Ontario, driving sometimes until midnight and spending each day analyzing carrots just to do it all over again the next day, I understand her worries all too well. Every day I thought about if a machine wasn't operating correctly, if I forgot some piece of the university's very expensive equipment, or when we arrived at one particular farm which had at least half its crop failed due to a lack of weeding, if I would even have enough samples to analyze. But back to Jane's story. Jane's biggest discovery came in the 1960s when she noticed a chimp that she had named
David Greybeard,
peeling leaves off of twigs and then using them and blades of grass to scoop termites out of the ground.
It had long been thought that we were the only creatures on Earth that used and made tools.
Goodall made headlines by discovering that chimpanzees are intelligent, social animals who use tools to gather food, something the scientific community at the time believed only humans could do.
This discovery led to National Geographic agreeing to take over funding Jane's project, under the condition that wildlife photographer Hugo van Ludwig be permitted to accompany her and document the study.
Louis was able to obtain a grant from the National Geographic Society to continue my study. In addition, they would be sending out a photographer to document the chimpanzees.
After lots of time spent together studying and photographing the chimps, Jane and Hugo fell in love and got married.
And I think it was pretty obvious to me right from the start that I was a subject of interest as well as the chimps.
From there, Jane went on to have a son, get divorced, remarry, become a widow, win many, many awards,
The Presidential Medal of Freedom is awarded to Jane Goodall,
and go on to write 27 books. One of these books is Jane's final book, A Book of Hope, a survival guide for trying times, written by Jane Goodall and Douglas Abrams with Gail Hudson. In this book, Jane talks about how reflecting on her life can allow her to attain a greater understanding of the concept of hope. She can see how it is still possible to have hope for the future, even in such troubling times as we currently are living through.
Were mistakes made, of course, but one learns from mistakes. And so I wouldn't have changed anything, really.
Like and subscribe for more science videos, and as always, stay curious.